Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. This is my first official video on YouTube. On this channel I will be looking at movies, mainly ones that I see in the cinema, but also maybe some that I own at home, as I do have a fairly big collection of them. I am a massive movie fan, and I just finally need someone to talk to about it, so who else better than random strangers on the internet that probably won't even watch the video. So this week I actually watched a re-release. It was the 20-year anniversary of the first Spider-Man film, and they re-released it in America a while back. I live in the UK, and they've just re-released it here, and I watched it. I think it was on Sunday I managed to catch it, and it still holds up as one of the best, not just best superhero films, but one of the best films I've ever seen. I absolutely adore everything from the story to the script to the characters. The casting was just unreal. It was so inspired, and the performances they give are absolutely stellar. I think these are some of the best performances I've seen in a superhero film. And something we need to talk about as well is just how much this film holds up all these years later, especially the scenes with Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. The conversations they have in this movie are just wow. They hold so much weight to this day. They are just so interesting to listen to. Hearing the Goblin give that speech on the rooftop, it's there's no words to describe it. That classic story about good versus evil and responsibility, the coming of age story that it tells with Peter Parker. I always love the fact that when he first gets his powers, he essentially just uses them to impress a girl. He tries to earn money to buy a car, and ultimately that is what results in his Uncle Ben getting killed. If Peter Parker wasn't there at the wrestling match, his Uncle Ben would never have gone to pick him up. His Uncle Ben would never have been shot, and the fact that it's the guy who he let, run past him out of spite for the guy who didn't pay him for winning the match. It's just it teaches him so much responsibility, and you see him grow over the course of the film in such a beautiful and natural way. He almost feels guilt ridden when he goes out attacking burglars, but not attacking them, but stopping burglars and robbers and thieves. It's almost like he's trying to make up for the fact that he let Uncle Ben down, that he let that one thief get away and it took someone from him. It feels like he's so burdened with guilt, but at the same time he understands that he has these powers and that he has to fight for what's right because he's the one that can do it. And then when he meets someone like the Green Goblin, who is on the same level as him with in terms of strength, and he's very different and very up there compared to the normal burglars and thieves that he takes down. He has to step up and take on his greatest foe. Now let's talk about the Green Goblin. This casting performance by Willem Dafoe, both as the Goblin and as Norman Osborn, is so mesmerizing. You cannot take your eyes off him at all. He is one of the best parts of this movie and one of the best parts of this entire franchise. He is iconic. In a lot of movies you love the villain when they're being the villain in their super villain costume. It's fun to watch them cause chaos and to fight and the big action scenes, but even in this film as Norman Osborn, he's so interesting to watch and you understand his motivation 100%. And the conversations he has with Spider-Man on the rooftop, talking about that famous speech where he tries to entice Spider-Man to join his side, it still holds true today. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother? And of course, Spider-Man's response to him, because it's right, it's just pure Spider-Man. It's pure. It's so pure. It's so good. Spider-Man knows what he has to do, and by this point in the film, he is doing it. Not just because of guilt, but because it's right. He's took on that responsibility. He's listened to Uncle Ben's famous last words, and he has completely took on the mantle of Spider-Man at this point.
Picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
I love as well how complex the relationships are between everybody, between Peter and Mary Jane, between Peter and Uncle Ben, between Peter and Harry, between Harry and Mary Jane, between Harry and his father, between Norman Osborn and Peter. It's all weaved together in such a tightly written script. It's honestly astonishing that it still holds up so much today, and it's still one of the best written movies I've seen to date. The fact that there's no messing about either with the Green Goblin. You know, he goes out, he gets his revenge on the board of directors who essentially fire him and take his company off him. He gets that revenge swift. He meets Spider Man, becomes intrigued, realizes Spider Man's the only one who can stop him. So he offers him a deal to join him, or for them to end up in a never ending battle until they both essentially die. Again, reference to on the fantastic rooftop scene. As soon as he finds out who Spider Man is, in a great Thanksgiving scene as well, where he uses deduction and shows his intelligence. You know, as soon as he finds out who Peter Parker is and that he's Spider Man, he goes after Aunt May and then Mary Jane. Attacking Peter's heart is such a clever way for this film to go, and the villain being so personally wrapped up with Peter Parker and the Goblin obviously being tied up with Spider Man. It just works so well. It's such a clever move, and it's just such a fantastic script. The final battle between Spider Man and Norman in the abandoned building site, I've never really been sure. As a kid, I always thought it was like a graveyard. Now I'm starting to think maybe it's just like an abandoned building, or a building that's been demolished and kind of left there. Either way, it's fantastic. Definitely gives me vibes of a graveyard though, with all the grey and the colouring they use. But it's fantastic, and you really do see some raw fighting between the two. It's honestly, I can't praise this movie enough. One of my favourite movies of all time. I'd honestly give this film a solid 5 out of 5. It's fantastic. Can't recommend that. Everybody who can, if they're in the UK, go and watch the re-release. I'm not actually sure if it's still going to be out by the time this comes out. If not, buy it on Blu-ray, buy it on 4K, buy it on something. And soon I will be watching Spider-Man 2, as that is also being re-released, as is Spider-Man 3, and I will get a video on them too as well. These videos are not meant to be anything great, really. These are just kind of my unedited. They're going to be a little bit edited, but unedited for the most part, unscripted, definitely, thoughts on some movies that I'm watching, just to see how this goes, and if I enjoy it. It is just like a little hobby I'm starting. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video somewhat. You enjoy listening to me ramble on about Spider-Man. One of the best films, not just comic book films, one of the best films ever made. Oh, and I'd be annoyed with myself if I didn't mention that by the end of the film, throughout the film, sorry, that Peter, he loves Mary Jane, and Mary Jane, as the film goes on, starts to like Peter, and by the end she, finally confesses her love to him, and because he knows that if he does date her, he'll put her in so much danger that he has to sacrifice the one thing he's always wanted, truly earning that responsibility and truly giving in to the Spider-Man mantle, setting us up perfectly for the next film. Fantastic. Had to mention that quickly at the end. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next one.